I discovered the trial of Sir Walter Raleigh. He was tried for treason in 1603. The succession to Queen Elizabeth I was in doubt, though eventually it was James VI of Scotland, James I of England who took over the throne from Elizabeth. But there was a plot called the Main Plot, allegedly, to put one Arabella Stuart on the throne. I read the trial account in Howell State Trials and found that Raleigh, who was somebody I associated only with tobacco and potatoes and adventurism, as someone with real penetrating legal skills. At his trial, unrepresented, he couldn't give evidence. He showed his precision in analysing situations, as well as claiming the right to confront a witness, because he was faced with a witness, in inverted commas, who wasn't in court, but essentially gave all of the evidence against him from outside court. And he said, bring him into court and make him say that here. And that, I thought, was quite inspiring. But why, it may be asked, in Singapore, which has no international convention, as I will be talking to? And I think the answer that comes back is my firm impression, is that Singapore looks out to the world in any event. The second point is that the confrontation right is somewhat connected with the hearsay rule, and Singapore has its hearsay rule and exceptions. And the third is that there are some features of present-day Singaporean law which do, it seems to me, raise very distinctly issues about whether the confrontation right is satisfied here. I sort of grew up intellectually at the University of Oxford in 68 to 72, probably grew up in other ways as well. After a few years practicing at the bar, I became an academic, first at the University of Leeds, where I had great colleagues, but for the last 30 odd years at Jesus College in Oxford, which has been my intellectual home for all those years. I've done a considerable amount of research and writing, a couple of monographs, a number of articles, and contributions to FIPS on evidence. I've always thought that teaching and administration are important. As far as teaching is concerned, I felt I was passed the baton in 1968 to 72, and I should attempt to pass the baton on. To have excellent pupils in one's trust is a very valuable thing. The other thing is administration. In a self-governing institution like a college in Oxford, it's right that people who are academics actually do some governance. Not all of it, they can't do all of it, but some of the governance. So I served as secretary to the college's governing body, then as its senior tutor, which is basically its academic director, and then as its estates bursar, which means its chief financial officer. So I've done those things, and I'm proud to have done them. More recently, I took over in 2014 as editor of the Law Quarterly Review. The students here are clearly bright, interested and worthwhile, and that's an important part of the process. What I have found interesting is that I teach at Oxford in the tutorial environment, which is typically me and two pupils. Here, though it's been a small seminar, it has been a seminar, and the dynamics of that are rather different from the Oxford tutorial. But that I find valuable. I've never thought that teaching has to be done in one way and one way only. So an experience of teaching in a different way is refreshing. So I've enjoyed the process. A very touching experience that my wife and I had was at the Cranji War Memorial. We went there for a particular reason, for a friend, to see where their uncle was buried. But it's so beautifully done, so carefully thought out. We like your art galleries. We particularly like, if I may say, your buildings downtown. There's some wonderful architecture which is absolutely top of the range. And the Padang is glorious, not least because cricket is played there. The thing that strikes me most about this part of the world, and I hope I can be forgiven for saying this, is it clearly does take some things from the West. It is a place of initiative, that's clearly the case. But my strong sense is that that doesn't prevent it being its own country, if you see what I mean. That it is welcoming to influences from the outside, but that doesn't mean It is not particular to itself.